2022, and a Happy New Year to each and every one of you. As you are aware, our press conferences are all part of the Nevis Island Administration thrust towards openness and transparency. To those who are joining us for the very first time, the format of our press conference is as follows. The Premier will make his statement, and the members of the press corps will be given the opportunity to ask their questions. In so doing, you are kindly asked to give your name and the organization that you represent. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, join me in welcoming to the podium the Honorable Premier of Nevis, Mark A.G. Brantley.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you all for being here at our first press conference for 2022. I'm delighted to be here, and I would want to start by wishing, of course, all of you a Happy New Year, and to thank the members of the press for your continued engagement with us here at this monthly event. It is, I think, quite important that we continue to engage with the members of the press and to continue to try to answer the questions that you have. You are, as they say, the fourth estate, a very important part of any democratic society, and certainly I campaigned in 2017 that we would institute a monthly press conference, and I'm quite proud that we've kept that particular commitment until now. In fact, it's almost time to campaign again. So this will no longer be an issue. I think that going forward, any person who occupies this office must now expect that this is the new standard, that we come and we speak to members of the press and take questions from you. So Happy New Year to each and every one of you, and thank you again, and thank you to all who are tuned in and those who are viewing. Let me start, as I sometimes do, by congratulating Nevisians who have done well. And since we were last here, we got the very excellent news that Reverend Dean Ernest Fleming, who was originally of Barnesgut Village, he has attained the post of Bishop-elect of the Diocese of Northeastern Caribbean and Aruba in the Anglican Church. I'm advised that this is historical because it's the very first time that any Nevisian has been elected as the bishop, and Bishop Fleming is presently serving in Antigua, and I would want from this rostrum certainly to congratulate him and to wish him and his family all the very best. Let me also congratulate our own from Bath Village, His Excellency Dr. Everson Hull. He is our ambassador to the OAS, the Organization of American States, and he has been elected as the chairman of the OAS Permanent Council. He will serve in that position for 3 months, from January 1st through March 31st. Congratulations as well to Paradise Beach Resort, one of our leading luxury resorts here on the island of Nevis. They've taken the top prize in the Best Villa Resort of the Year category at the 2021 Caribbean World Travel and Living Awards. Let me, while I'm also in congratulatory mood, congratulate my dear friend, Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados. She and her ruling Barbados Labour Party have, for the second time, won all 30 seats in Barbados in the recently concluded elections, which, as we know, is a snap elections called for the 19th of January. And again, she has won all the seats on offer. Congratulations to Prime Minister Mottley and her Barbados Labour Party team. In sports, we have had 3 Nevisian cricketers who have been playing as part of the West Indies Under-19 Rising Stars team, currently participating in the World Cup Under-19 being played in the West Indies. And they continue to record noteworthy performances in the matches in which they've played. Those, of course, are Onaje Amri, Jaden Carmichael, and Carlin Bowen Tuckett. We would like again to congratulate our youngsters for making Nevis proud. 4 players from Nevis are, I'm told, among the number of netballers who have been selected to represent the Federation at the 2nd Annual OECS Eastern Caribbean Central Bank International Series. That will be played in Dominica from February 10th to 19th. The netballers are Diana Brown, Tashika Bowen, Cassigne Smithen, and Jewel Thompson. We wish to congratulate those players and, of course, wish them and the Federation all the very best. If I can switch quickly to health, and the Ministry of Health is celebrating yet again Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Our community health nursing services will be offering free tests and checkups, including free pap smears at all health centers on Saturday, 29 January 2022, starting from 8 a.m. to 12 noon. We invite women who have never had a pap smear test, and women with a family history of cervical cancer to call or visit the nearest health center for further information. Gentlemen, I'm appealing to you that you encourage your women folk, your wives, your daughters, your moms, to go out as well and engage in this very important exercise. Cervical cancer screening saves lives. Screening generally saves lives. And clearly, this is what our healthcare sector is all about, is delaying the onset of disease and delaying death, saving lives. That's what we're seeking to do. And so we encourage you to go out and take advantage of these free screenings. Many people have been calling and asking about food handlers' clinics, because we know many work in the restaurant trade. And I'm pleased to say that we commenced those on Tuesday, the 25th of January. So they have already started. And in fact, they happened on Tuesday and happened again today. They will be held and have been held at the Cotton Ground Community Center for food handlers in the Cotton Ground District with expired IDs and potential food handlers who have applied for an ID. The sessions commence at 9 a.m. Other food handlers sessions will be announced shortly. And just so the members of the press understand, we are responding, of course, it's an annual event, but during the pandemic, it was quite difficult. So we are now responding to that and ensuring that we play catch up and that our food handlers are not affected. Many of our servers in restaurants, people who work in the kitchen, etc., all of those individuals, people who sell food on the roadsides, they're all required by law to have a food handler's permit. And so we are responding to that need. And so I hope that persons out there involved in that industry are paying attention. Just want to remind us all that the COVID-19 vaccination program, that continues at our various health centers. Persons who are interested in getting their second shot or even their booster shot can call or visit their nearest health center. We still encourage those and continue to encourage those who are not vaccinated to go out and to do so. The current stock of vaccine on hand is a Pfizer vaccine, and they will expire at the end of February. So there is yet time to go out and get your shot here on the island of Nevis. I should also add that through the Ministry of Health, spearheaded by the Health Promotion Unit, we are now doing a massive drive for our younger people, those from the ages of 12 and up, to get vaccinated, since the Pfizer vaccine has been cleared for those 12 years and older. And we have incentivized by doing a very interesting raffle program, where if you get vaccinated by February, or if you refer someone to be vaccinated by February, you can win some very, very expensive prizes. I think I'm told they have iPhone 13, they have Samsung phones, they have 40-inch flat screen game ready. I hope I have the language right. But the smart televisions, they have AirPods, they have all kinds of really, really good prizes. And so we ask persons to go out and be a part of that. It's a fun way to be posting shortly tips on living in a COVID world. We recognize that COVID is here to stay, and we will have to deal with it. And so the Health Promotion Unit has come up with these tips for living in a COVID world. These will be done via the Nevis Health Promotion Unit Facebook page and on Instagram as well. The tips will provide a brief description of what persons can do as individuals and as a family in the community to minimize the risk of COVID. These will include, I'm told, healthy meals to strengthen your immune system, physical exercise, ventilation in the home and workspace, vaccination, of course, and the booster shot, your mental health, which is very important, and the need for you to listen to reputable sources for your information. Rather than, of course, sometimes people go to social media and find somebody who has never spent a day behind the schoolhouse door, who's an authority on epidemiology and is an authority on vaccination and is telling you all kinds of things. And persons run with that sometimes, not checking the source, that these are just quacks who are giving misinformation. We invite you, of course, to visit those pages and to stay safe. Now, on my way here, I did get an update on our PCR testing in Nevis. You would recall that at previous press conferences, we would have spoken about the fact that we have had now for some time the necessary equipment. I'm advised that we had some mishaps, but we are now fully on track. And the last update that I've had is that we have now done everything. We are set up, the testing has been done, the training has been done, and apparently they have to go through a process of doing some sampling. So that has been done, and those have been sent off to PAHO. We're simply now waiting on PAHO, and we expect any minute now to get the go-ahead to do PCR testing at the Alexandria Hospital. We expect that when that happens, it will be a quantum leap forward for the island. And let me apologize as the Premier and Senior Minister of Health that it has not happened yet. It really ought to have happened, but as I said, we had some unforeseen mishaps in terms of trying to get this process on the road. We are now, as of this morning, just waiting for PAHO to say go ahead. And so all that we needed to do, we have now done, and I'm told we expect to get that green light very shortly, at which point it means that we will no longer have to send samples to St. Kitts to get them tested, and we will take the burden off of the labs in St. Kitts and off of the JNF in St. Kitts and be able to assist in dealing with testing. Testing is obviously a part of living with COVID, of the new world that we have with COVID, and so that is a commitment that we would have made, and a commitment delayed, but I'm satisfied now that a commitment that we have kept. Those who know me know that I am very passionate about training, and I continue to encourage our young people to seize opportunities for training when they become available. I am therefore pleased to use this rostrum and this forum, this platform that I have here once a month, to remind our general public, and the young people in particular, that we have a number of scholarships and training opportunities currently available. And so if you're out there and you are thinking about going off to study, you're perhaps concerned about how your parents are going to afford it. Parents, you're concerned about how your youngster is going to get that opportunity to go on to get tertiary education, which is now necessary in order to move forward in today's world. These are opportunities that are currently available, and I encourage you to look into these opportunities. Not to sit back and say you didn't know, not to sit back and say you couldn't be bothered, but to look into these opportunities. And wherever you can get something as important as an education for free, my advice is to grab it. I used the example on a recent program of two youngsters both graduating from the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College or from the Nevis Sixth Form College. Both bright, capable youngsters, both graduating with the same number of subjects. One goes out and grabs a scholarship that's available. Locally, we will say scholarships banging dog. They go and they grab it. The other one says, let's go to the bank, mommy and daddy, and let us borrow $100,000 from Development Bank or National Bank or whichever bank. They both go off, one on scholarship, that is for free, the other with $100,000 debt. After 3 years, they both graduate. Both have, after their name, BSc. And they come back. Both get jobs, middle management, in a local company or in government. Both are earning $5,500 a month. Big difference. One has a student loan to pay. The other doesn't. So who is farther ahead? And to me, these are just basic, common sense analyses that our people should engage in. And when we know that these opportunities are available, I am begging our people to grab them. Too many of our young people are not seizing the opportunities, and as a result, these opportunities are going a-begging. So, if you're out there and you're listening, take out your pen and paper. We're inviting applications now for graduates of the Nevis Sixth Form College to apply for scholarships at the University of the Virgin Islands. The deadline is March 31st, 2022. So you have some time for you to apply. Scholarships available at the University of the Virgin Islands. We are also inviting Applications for persons who are interested in the bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees to study in Azerbaijan. And those scholarships are available for persons who are fully vaccinated. That's a requirement from Azerbaijan. The deadline is the 4th of March, 2022. We are also seeking applications for scholarships to study in Taiwan, both ICDF and MOFA. The deadlines for the MOFA scholarships is the 17th of February, and for the ICDF scholarships, it's the 8th of March. We have a good cohort of young people already in Taiwan, so there's a good community of Kittitians and Nevisians there. And I encourage again our young people to apply. We are also accepting applications for the Ross University Scholarship for persons interested in veterinary medicine. We are accepting applications for the University of Medicine and Health Sciences and Windsor University of Medicine scholarships, tenable on St. Kitts, Ross University, and these two are also tenable on St. Kitts. We are now also accepting applications for financial assistance. This is financial assistance now from the Nevis Island Administration. Please note, and this is important, that law, medicine, and business studies do not form part of the NIA's priority list. The deadline to receive applications for NIA financial assistance is the 31st of March, 2022. So, let me just put that in context for you. We have a number of scholarships that are being offered by universities and by governments around the world. We are inviting our people to apply for those training opportunities. If you want information, please contact here the Ministry of Human Resources, the Department of Human Resources. It's right here in the Social Security building on the top floor. Please call them up, ask a question. There's a lovely lady there, Mrs. Shanola Gill, who's quite helpful, and others in her team. I believe that is an opportunity for our young people to take advantage of. So please, there are scholarship opportunities available. But in addition to that, the Nevis Island Administration each year awards financial assistance to students. So we are also inviting applications from persons who are seeking some assistance from the government. So if you applied for a scholarship and that doesn't come through, and you're funding your studies some other way, the government is also saying we are prepared to assist. However, I want to re-emphasize that law, medicine, and business studies do not form part of our priority list. Put differently, the government is not prepared to provide assistance for those particular programs. And you may well say, why? And the reason is that statistically, we have found that far, far too many of our students are doing the same thing. So a lot of our students are going now to study law, a lot are going to study medicine, and a lot are going to study business. The consequence of that is that we have large numbers of our young people coming back with the same qualification. And areas that we do need in agriculture, in other aspects of healthcare, like diagnostics, like imaging and radiology and things of that nature, that areas such as technology, people to teach math and science in the schools, biology, chemistry, physics, nurses, those are the areas that the country needs. And so what we're seeking to do is not to stop anyone who wants to study whatever they want, but we're saying that if we're going to use taxpayers' money to support, we want to support the areas that the country desperately needs at this point in time. And I have been, in my own private capacity, encouraging young people, many of whom say, I want to study business. Why do you want to study business? That's what my friend doing, and they say it's easy. Or, I want to be a business person, so I want to study business. So you have a lot of people with the same degree, business studies, marketing, finance, and they come back and they're competing with each other and they have the same basic degree. And so we're asking our people to expand their horizons, and we're seeking to coordinate this in such a way that we're putting our money to where and the areas that the island needs for its development. So if you want to go and study math, yes. You want to do computer science, graphics, graphic design, that kind of thing, as we get ready for the next year and the next 5 years and the next decade, that's what we're trying to encourage. So it is not at all in any effort to restrict anybody's ambition to be whatever they want to be, but with limited resources, we're simply saying that we're looking now to the core areas. Agriculture, feeding ourselves, that's critical. And so we're providing support for persons wanting to go out into those types of areas. And we're providing support, we did say medicine, but for those who want to specialize, because that too is something that we're noticing, that we have a large number of doctors, but who are just at the basic training. So people who are at the, what do they call it, the MBBS, I think it's called, who come and are just a general practitioner. But at the same time, if you need an ear, nose, and throat specialist, if you need an eye specialist, if you need somebody with specialist skills, we still have to travel overseas. So you have dozens and dozens of persons who are general practitioners, but you still have to go overseas when you want a specialist. And so we're encouraging people to specialize among the dozens that we have, to go off and to do something, and the government is prepared to support. And also, there are scholarships available for those as well. Let me switch quickly to tourism. The Pinnis Park, we're quite proud of, which was renamed the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, was officially opened on the 19th of December 2021 in a ceremony attended by a wide cross-section of the Nevis public, who turned up despite the pretty bad weather we had that day. It rained in a torrential way, but perhaps that was the blessings on the park. We were very grateful and continue to be very grateful to Mrs. Yvonne Gishard, the widow of the late Malcolm Gishard, and Yvonne Gishard would have not only consented to have the park named after her husband, but also would have unveiled a commemorative sign. We express sincere thanks to her and her entire family, and we felt that this was a fitting tribute to Malcolm Gishard, who, as we know, was the principal architect of that concept of a park there on those lands. And he had the idea, and I'm happy that I was able to take his idea and to execute it, but not to forget that it was his idea. And so we put it in place, and I am very pleased, and so far the feedback, I think, has been phenomenal. People are coming from far and near to enjoy the facility, and that is as it was intended to be. We express sincere thanks to the contractor Kwang Jun and all of the government and private sector entities, technicians, and artists who helped to bring this long-anticipated project to completion. It would be remiss of me, however, if I didn't mention Michael Perkins, who was the hands-on liaison manager, whatever you wish to call him. He made sure things happened there. I want to thank Michael Perkins publicly, and to thank John Hanley, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, because he too was very hands-on and did a tremendous amount of work there on that park. Prior to him, Ms. Tamika Lawrence led the effort, and while she's no longer in tourism, she too ought to be thanked, because she would have done a tremendous amount of work preparing for this eventuality. This park was something that we talked about, we prayed about, we had meetings about, we had town hall discussions about, we had original designs that had to be abandoned, we had people who were on board who said they would help to fund, and then they abandoned us, until ultimately the Taiwanese came to the rescue, and we had a very good partnership with them and have been able to deliver what I think is a first-class project for the island and people of Nevis. The park currently stands at 8.1 acres of beautifully landscaped grounds, and we have planted over 3,000 trees. Over 3,000 trees. You recall that I made a pledge, the government made a pledge some time ago that we'll plant 10,000 trees. And many said that that was, perhaps it couldn't be done. We were derailed by COVID, but I think the last tally that I had seen from agriculture said we had got to just over 6,000. We had been at agriculture propagating and distributing particularly fruits, fruit crops, coconut palms and the like, and so we've been doing that. And now in addition, we have added another 3,000 plants at the park, and I invite those of you who haven't been there to go and visit. The park offers a unique visitor center with a glass dome, and the only one we're told of its kind in the region, a lawn-covered roof, which offers a commanding view from a height of 15 feet. We have 4 fully air-conditioned meeting rooms, and they have been appropriately called Oleander, Poinciana, Hibiscus, and Orchid. The individual rooms can host up to 75 persons theater style. Oleander and Orchid combined are capable of accommodating 150 persons. We also have a children's playground, which is quite popular, and incidentally, I didn't think I would need to say this, but it's called a children's playground because it's for children. Big people are not supposed to go and sit down on the swing and sit down on the thing. They're going to break them. I mean, I would have thought that that would be logical and that we would all understand that. But the security keep complaining that they have to constantly remind adults that this is for children, that the reason you can't fit physically on the slide and on the thing is because it's not made for you. We have the signs up that are very clear that says for children. And yet people are going, the adults. I don't never see adults need to go on a swing so much as adults go into the park at Pinnis. In fact, I'm told on the very first day after we opened, one of the attractions there was broken because somebody clearly, over the size and over the weight, decided to go onto it. So I did not think I needed to say this, but I'm saying it. Adults, it is for your children, not you. Your job is to sit on the benches that we've provided and watch your children play and enjoy themselves. Bring a book, read a book. That's your job. Pay attention to the kids. Or if you want to bring them and leave them because it's a safe environment, but it is not for you to go on the swings and on the slide and on the seesaw. So I want to make that very clear. Sometimes you say things that you never thought in life you would have to say, but I'm saying it. It is a children's play area, not adults. We have the lighted splash pad fountain, and we have a very large central lawn, which is capable of hosting big events. We have the large stage, which can accommodate bands and other big groups for events, and the stage has fixed rings. We have designed it specifically. Those can accommodate the erection of tents, so it's a space that can also be used for private events. If this sounds like an advertisement, it is, so I'll continue. We have almost a half mile of jogging, walking trails, and boardwalk, ideal for exercise for those of you who want to take your morning walk or your afternoon walk. We have park benches scattered throughout the park, and we will be getting some more. We have a snake trail and picnic barbecue area. We have a lawn amphitheater capable of hosting well over 200 persons. And then we've added something called the Game Room. It's an electronic game arcade room managed by Mr. Dion Ward. And Seal My Sip Juice Bar and Smoothie Lounge, which is managed by Miss Rhonda Thompson. There are currently 61 parking spaces. We have ramps throughout the park for full accessibility, and we have 24-hour security. And so we're asking the general public to go out and to utilize the park. The staff is ready to assist you with your events, from government and corporate conferences and exhibitions to birthday parties, anniversaries, concerts, church events, photo shoots, and picnics. In fact, I saw some lovely photos from there of a beautiful picnic that persons organized there. We solicit the cooperation of the general public in obeying all the park rules to ensure that our children, friends, and visitors alike continue to have access to this wonderful facility for many years to come. In particular, see, I said it earlier, but I want to read it again. In particular, adults are asked not to use the facilities in the playground area, as the swings and rides are designed to accommodate a particular weight limit. So, I did not know it was in my notes, but I have said it again. Movies will be shown at the park this weekend and the last weekend of each month going forward. You should check out the park's Facebook page for details about the movies that will be shown on Saturday 29th and Sunday 30th. And then the Edith Irby Jones Wellness Center will be hosting free yoga sessions at the park from 8 to 9 a.m. on the first Saturday of each month, beginning Saturday 5th February. Persons are encouraged to sign up early as spaces are limited. For more information on the yoga sessions, call 663-5446. For contact details for the MGR Park, MGR, Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, you can call 467-6080 or 662-9294, or you can go to the Facebook page, Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. Now, I also have the distinct honor, and I can say so because I have been authorized to say so, to advise that, as you know, we have gone in a very aggressive way to try and develop a movie industry here on the island of Nevis. And we have been blessed that some 4 movies were filmed here last year. It seems like a long time, but in fact, MSR Media would have come to the island of Nevis. It was in January of 2021. I would have first spoken to them in December of 2020. And so in the past year, they've done 4 movies. And the first of those movies will be released worldwide on the 14th of February. And the first of those movies is A Week in Paradise. And that will be on all major streaming platforms. And so Nevisians will be afforded the opportunity, those at home and those abroad, to see their country in living color and see how it is displayed. But in a conversation with Mr. Philip Martinez of MSR, he had the very excellent idea to offer a free premiere screening for the people of Nevis. And so please allow me to say that that will happen prior to the international release, and it will be a free event, and it is an event that we are seeking to organize at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. And the idea there is for you to come with your families and to see the very first movie made in Nevis, released on big screens there on a free public screening for the people of Nevis and St. Kitts to come out and to see it themselves. I believe that we have talked about the movies, but this will be the first opportunity that Nevisians will get to see what in fact has been created using Nevis. As Mr. Martinez and others have said to me time and time again, the real star in these movies is the island of Nevis. And so I believe that this is a phenomenal thing, a great development, and I did not myself think it possible, but the impossible has been made possible, that we all together will be able to have a free screening of this movie, A Week in Paradise. And so stay tuned, more information will come shortly, but we will put that together in the next week or two so that the public can come to the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park and see this. How we're going to do it, that will be for those organizing it, whether or not it's outdoor, under the stars, and of course we can make an evening out of it using the amphitheater, and really people can bring their blankets and sit out and watch the very first movie created here on the island of Nevis and being released the day later to international audiences. So we certainly look forward to that, and I think that that is good news for us and an excellent way to bring home the reality of the movie making business to the people of Nevis. That is not just chatter, it's not just the Premier talking about it and others talking about it. It has actually happened. It is actually happening, and you can see that on the ground. So you'll hear more about that, and we look forward to that coming to fruition over the next week and a half or thereabouts. Sticking with tourism, let me just commend the appointment of industry veteran Devon Liebert, Nevisian, Gingerland man. He has been appointed as the interim CEO of the Nevis Tourism Authority. He has over 2 decades of experience within that organization, where he has served as Director of Sales and Marketing since 2008. In his role as Director of Sales and Marketing, he has overseen the promotion of Nevis in all of its source markets and has been also responsible for the cruise sector. He has led the delivery of the annual Nevis Mango and Food Festival and coordinating the Nothing Like a Nevisian Holiday event. Prior to this position, he was a tourism officer for the then Department of Tourism, Nevis. Over his career, he has worked in every area of tourism and contributed to the overall development of the industry on the island of Nevis. He helped implement the Caribbean Tourism Organization Management Information Systems for Tourism, a tourism statistics program introduced for the turn of the new millennium. He also coordinated the Small Tourism Enterprise Program, a project from the Organization of American States designed to develop small tourism enterprises to become more competitive. He holds, Mr. Devon Liebert, a BSc in Tourism Management from the University of the West Indies in the Bahamas, and an MSc in Strategic Tourism Management from CIRAM European School of Business in France. We would want to wish Mr. Devon Liebert all the very best in his new role, and at the same time, we thank Ms. Jadine Yard for her service. She demits office, and we wish her all the very best in her future endeavors. If I can just segue quickly to the Ministry of Agriculture, and just to say that on Tuesday past, I was privileged to attend the annual event, Agenda 2022, the fourth in the agenda series. This one was done at the Malcolm Guichard Recreational Park under the theme, Fostering Economic Growth Through Innovation. The objective of the event is to outline to stakeholders the ministry's plans for the sector for the year, underscoring the importance of agriculture to the island's economy. The event was attended by cabinet ministers. I was afforded the opportunity to speak, and of course by allied agencies and technocrats from the ministry. I would want to commend again the Deputy Premier Alexis Jeffers and his team for the excellent work that they have done and continue to do in agriculture. As I'm saying that, I should also make a plug that I'm told by the abattoir that they now are doing rotisserie chicken. So if you want rotisserie chicken, that's available there in addition to all the other meats and cuts and products that they are generating there, including, of course, our famous organic minced meat, which is available on all shelves now. They're doing bacon, they're doing hams, and they're now doing rotisserie chicken. I'm told that they're selling quite well, and I'd want to commend them for the innovation, and commend in particular Mr. Gary Griffin, who continues to be the focal point there. I don't know, is his title Butcher? Well, he's in charge, and he's doing an excellent job, and I would want to commend him for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I end by just providing for you some information. I believe on the last occasion that I was here, or at least on a previous occasion, let me put that way, I was asked about the number of school leavers who would be, of course, have been entering the job market. In 2020, I'm told that we had 242. I didn't have the statistics at the time, so I'm bringing them now. 220, we had 242, and 221, we had 218. So these would be youngsters coming from school and into the job market. Of course, some would have left and gone abroad. Some would have left and gone to school, gone to study. Some would have been absorbed by government, and I'm sure some would have been absorbed more generally. I wanted to get some statistics for you for this morning for where we are as of today, January, in terms of our jobs, because we would have known that there was a huge demand from those in the tourism sector, the hotels and the restaurant sector, for workers over the Christmas, and of course now we're in the throes of the tourism season. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to get those numbers prior to my coming here. What I can tell you, that from our Department of Labor here in Nevis, we know that in 2020, we had some 756 layoffs in 2020 on the island. And in 2021, we had 134. So most of the damage, so to speak, happened in 2020, when, of course, we had the height of the pandemic and the hotels and the restaurants started to close down. We had 134. When you add people coming out of school to those numbers, you start to realize that we have had quite a crisis on the island in terms of jobs and job creation. And that is why I wanted this morning to be in a position to tell you how the picture stood today. But as I said, I was not able to get those stats, but I will have them for you on the next occasion. So the position, I believe, has improved. I just don't have the numbers to suggest that, but I do have some, how should I put it, some circumstantial evidence to support the idea that the numbers have improved. And why do I say that? Is because I have from the Ministry of Finance here with me some collection figures, and VAT collected at the Inland Revenue Department for December 2020 was $982,958.48. So the island of Nevis collected in VAT in December of 2020 $982,958.48. For the same period, 2021, the Inland Revenue Department collected $2,823,029.14. $2,823,029.14. So in December of 2020, we collected just over $982,000. And in December of 2021, we collected just over $2.8 million for that same period. The increase, therefore, was $1.8 million, representing a 187.2% increase over the period from comparing December to December. So December 2020 compared to December 2021, there was a 187.2% increase. And ladies and gentlemen, that's understandable, because December of 2021 was the first time we were seeing, once again, the economy starting to come back, tourists starting to come back. And whether we like it or not, however we protest or say what we will, tourism remains the mainstay of the Nevis economy. Insofar as the Tourism Development Levy, and this is a very good indicator of that sector and what that sector is doing, because the Tourism Development Levy is a charge that is a tax that is put on hotels and restaurants. And so when I say hotels and restaurants, let me fix that, let me speak plainly. It's put on the hotel invoices and the restaurant invoices. So when you go and you stay at the hotel, you're going to pay this 2%, which is a tourism development levy, will be added to your bill. And when you go and you eat at the restaurant, that 2% should be added to your bill. And that 2% is what we use to fund the Nevis Tourism Authority, which does the marketing for the jurisdiction. So again, to give you a context and a sense of where we are, in December of 2020, that 2% brought in to the Nevis Tourism Authority $99,571.50. $99,571.50 was what the 2% yielded in December 2020. In December 2021, the 2% yielded $425,970.26. So the increase is some $326,398.76, or 327.8%. I think that suggests that we are moving once again in the right direction. And as I like to say, we are regaining the momentum that we would have lost due to COVID. And I'm hopeful that these numbers continue to trend in the right direction, and that we're able to move in a good and positive way going forward as we try to rebuild the economy here on the island of Nevis. So I think that those numbers, particularly the tourism levy, is a direct indicator of what's happening with tourism on the island, and to move from just $99,500 in December last year to some $425,970 in December this year, representing some 327.8% increase, is very significant in terms of demonstrating what tourism is doing and how it is that the island is rebounding and regaining the lost momentum in that sector. So I will leave it there and stand ready to take your questions. Forgive me, please, before I take your questions, one last point. I know I keep saying last, but this is the last point. Just to update, you would have been aware that we had, unfortunately, some 21 Haitian nationals that would have come ashore here on Nevis illegally some weeks ago. And it was, they were taken into custody. They have been housed, treated in as humane a way as we could. I'm advised that they were housed at Potworks, and I am to advise that based on the latest information, that the Ministry of National Security and St. Kitts is indicating that they will be repatriated to their country, Haiti, on the 31st of January, which I believe is Monday next. It's a very unfortunate situation, but there was little that we could have done in the circumstances when persons arrive here illegally with no jobs and no means of sustaining themselves, and to land illegally. I believe they landed somewhere in the vicinity of Bat Village, and the authorities at National Security have taken the decision to repatriate them to their own country on the 31st of January 2022. So it's a very sad situation. I'm told that some arrests have been made and that there may have also been some local persons, local criminals, let me call them by their right name, who have been involved in the trafficking of humans. It is, particularly given our history of slavery, where we were trafficked and brought here from Africa, it is, to me, a horrible, horrible thing for our people to engage in, and to seek to extract money from individuals, to transport them illegally to other countries, is a truly horrible practice and a criminal enterprise that we must seek to bring to an end. And so if there are individuals here who have boats and are engaging in this type of activity, I'm urging you to cease and desist. The police are urging you to cease and desist, because we will not sit by and allow people to benefit and traffic in the misery of others. And so, alas, our Haitian brothers and sisters are going back home. They're going back to their homes. I am to report that, based on all that we've heard, they're in good health, and we have sought to treat them as humanely as we can in the circumstances. Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite your questions, and thank you again for being here.
Good morning, Mr. Premier. Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll keep my questions brief. The tourism industry, we saw it on the rebound and everybody was so very hopeful, but then we saw the emergence of the Omicron variant. How has that impacted the industry so far, in light of a lot of airline cancellations, especially to the Caribbean areas? Also, can you speak to the economic impact of the double salary that would have been paid in December? I know 3 of our local ministers are part of the federal cabinet that would have approved that initiative. And what are the plans for the movie industry going forward? We know they were doing some filming on St. Kitts, and whether or not there are plans to have future movies filmed on Nevis. Oh, sorry, L.K. Hewlett, Department of Information. Thank you.
Ms. Hewlett, thank you very much for your questions. Omicron has had an impact. In fact, I only yesterday would have exchanged some messages with the Four Seasons Resort, and they have indicated that Omicron would have impacted in a very significant way their bookings for January. And people were canceling. I think that there was a considerable level of media hype over Omicron. And, you know, when I suppose the hysteria was over and we looked at it, we recognized that it was very contagious, to be sure, but by all accounts was not nearly as deadly as, say, the Delta variant that we had had before. And so, for my part, I couldn't understand, once that science started to become available, why it is that there were still all these cancellations and this mass hysteria, as I call it. You will realize, Ms. Hewlett, that other countries, such as the United Kingdom, have moved in the completely opposite direction. They have now removed all the restrictions, even mask wearing. They've said, you know, that persons are free to go about their business. And I believe that I've seen too that in Europe, Western Europe, they're saying that they will now start to treat COVID as just the way you treat a flu. So the reality is, I think that the world is coming to grips with the idea that we have to live with COVID. And I'm to hope that the cancellation that we saw as a consequence of this hysteria about Omicron. I mean, when I first heard of Omicron, they made it sound as if the world was coming to an end. And in fact, now I commented, in fact, as I was having breakfast this morning, that you're not even hearing that much about Omicron on the news anymore. It has fallen off the headlines. If you look at BBC and CNN and those carriers now, they're all talking about Ukraine and the tensions in Ukraine. So it seems that the media hyped it up, not the media here, let me be clear, the international media hyped it up, and then we were left with the consequences. In any event, the hotels here are saying that their February and ongoing still looks very strong. And so I'm hopeful that this dip that we're seeing in January as a consequence of cancellations due to Omicron, that is going to pick up in February, and that we'll be able to have a good season. The truth is, ladies and gentlemen, that any season right now is better than what we've had, because we've had no season at all for the past few years. Impact of the double salary, Ms. Hewlett, is hard to say. I don't have those numbers as yet. I believe that there has been some considerable expenditure. In fact, I spoke to one local supplier of automobiles this morning, and they indicated to me that they sold 18 new vehicles for that one supplier. I tried to get the other main supplier, but I wasn't able to get them prior to being here. I do know that in 2020, on that day, that we would have sold in Nevis some 40 vehicles. But if one of the suppliers is saying they sold 18, then I would imagine that we are somewhere close to that number again this year. Big ticket items, of course, are always a good indication of people's confidence and their spending. And so I don't have actual data on the impact yet, but I think that we'll get that as the weeks go by. The movie industry going forward, I have been in regular contact with MSR Media. They, of course, were our preferred partner when we started this journey back in January of 2021. They have indicated, of course, we have a contract with them to produce movies here on Nevis. It was always the intention, Ms. Hewlett, that St. Kitts and Nevis would be the backdrop for these movies. We always understood that there were scenes available. If you wanted something, for example, at Brimstone Hill, you couldn't get that in Nevis. And so there were scenes that were available in St. Kitts and scenes that were available in Nevis. And so these two islands provided a beautiful backdrop because of how close we are, because of the ability to move back and forth very easily. And so the very first movie that was filmed here was, I think, 1 year off. And I tell people all the time that the first scene in 1 year off is actually at Salt Plage in St. Kitts. That's where the movie opens. And so it's quite interesting that the two islands really have an opportunity here to build something. So we started it here in Nevis. I think that goes without saying because we have been able to do quite a bit here with MSR. But MSR has certainly gone to St. Kitts, and I think the last movie that they did, Christmas in the Caribbean, had some scenes that were shot in St. Kitts and some scenes shot in Nevis. And that is, I think, the way it was always envisaged that it would work. So the industry going forward, we think Ms. Hewlett is strong. We'll continue to work with them and also try to attract others to come to the island and to see what we are able to offer and to work with us. I can tell you that one of our selling points thus far has been the ease of operating here. That, things which may sound simple, like closing a road for half an hour to do a shoot, that in other countries that's incredibly difficult to do. Here we have been very accommodating. I would want to thank the folks at the Nevis Tourism Authority, the folks at the Ministry of Tourism here, the folks in the police, etc., traffic, because they've all been very accommodating. And of course our health professionals, because we have had to develop protocols to deal with this as well. And so it has gone well, and it is my hope. In fact, I'm told that they should film 4 movies this year. So if that works out, then I think that we're in good nick and good position to continue this industry as we have been seeking to do. They're also engaging with St. Kitts, but I'm sure our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts will report on that in due course. But as far as Nevis is concerned, they're committed to shooting 4 movies, and so we should see some benefit from that and from this industry that I'm very proud to say that we started here on the island of Nevis. I hope I've addressed your questions, and I'll take any other questions that you may have. Thank you.
Good morning, Devon Cornelius, Win FM.
Good morning.
Explain in detail the current status of the hospital expansion project, the completion date, breakdown of the reconfiguration works, and any additional costs. And once complete, how will the treatment or the services offered cater to the treatment on the island that are needed?
I'm not so sure when you say cater to the treatment on the island that are needed. You have any specific type of treatment in mind?
The areas are dialysis, kidney, dialysis, and other areas.
Okay.
So some of the services that will be offered.
Okay, got you. Now I understand. The details you're asking for, regrettably, I don't have to hand. The Minister of Health Day today is the Honorable Hazel Brandy. She's a junior minister, but she, of course, manages the health ministry, and she would have given a very fulsome report in her budget presentation in early December in the House of Assembly on the state of the hospital, the amounts that have been spent, etc. So, Mr. Cornelius, I don't have the numbers here with me today, but they are available publicly, because if you could simply look at her presentation in the House in December, you would have seen where she set out in great detail the numbers thus far, amount of spend, etc. Where we are, I'm told that the construction should be completed this year. That is the expectation. We are now, I think, at the stage where we are putting in windows and doors and starting the interior work at the hospital. We keep calling it a new wing, but as I've made clear here, it is 2.5 times the size of the existing hospital. So it's really a brand new facility, so to speak. What are we going to have there? We're going to have various surgery suites available. We're going to have dialysis available. We're going to have physiotherapy available. We are, I think, going to have new lab facilities there. And we're going to have a new maternity wing, I believe, that is going to be there as well. And various suites, accommodation for patients that are also going to be there. So we expect, and we're also going to have, radiography there. We expect, as you know, a new CT scan machine, state-of-the-art machine that should be arriving on island in the next few weeks. And that too will be housed there eventually. We're going to house it at the hospital grounds in a containerized unit for now. But when we're done, that will also be housed in the new facility. So we expect that it will really take Nevis to a new level. And yes, we have been criticized, rightfully so, because there have been some delays. But the truth is that every project that we have engaged with has had some measure of delay due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so many say, oh, you've been there for 4 years, what has happened? But the truth is, for 2 of those years, you were in lockdown and semi-lockdown and curfews and all of that. And so we've had some problems. And also, I like to be very forthright and direct with the public and the members of the press, and I did indicate that we had to pause the project to have a redesign of the interior, not the exterior, but the interior, because we wanted to ensure that we had the proper flow inside. And so that was done. We had to stop the project to get that done. That has now been completed, as I reported here before, and the work now is again proceeding apace. We would have restarted, I believe, in December, and that work is now going. So we expect that that construction should be done this year. And then, of course, we are already now starting to source equipment. So that is going to be the other significant cost there, would be to ensure that we have the necessary equipment there to outfit the dialysis, outfit the labs, outfit the imaging center, the radiology center, etc., and to ensure that we have all that is necessary to take healthcare in Nevis to the next level. It is our anticipation, Mr. Cornelius, that people will start to come to Nevis for care. That is our anticipation. And that we, Nevisians, will no longer have to travel as frequently for care, that they will be able to get that locally. Now, I'm sure that for highly specialized care, trauma and that kind of thing, that people still have to travel. And incidentally, there are many in Nevis who make the argument that whatever discipline, whatever service they want in healthcare should be available on the island. I am here to tell you that I am not going to promise that, because that is unrealistic. I happen to be in New York, one of the greatest cities in the world and one of the greatest and most powerful and richest countries in the world. I happened to be there some time ago, and in interacting with some individuals, found out that if you had a particular type of trauma, head trauma, for example, in a city like New York, you might have a hospital close to you, but that hospital can't help you. They have to medevac you to a trauma center, which might be some considerable distance away, in order for you to get treatment. I say that because I think here people say, oh, we should have cardiologists, we should have neurosurgery, we should have all of this available, not paying any attention to the size of our population, the cost of offering those services, the cost of the professionals who would offer those services, and the like. And so I believe in our engagement with our public, we should be realistic and not give people pie in the sky, not tell people things that we know are not realistic, but rather to stick with a practical approach to governance, and that is what I've sought to do. So what we're trying to do with this massive expansion in our hospital facilities to take our health care, our primary care, our diagnostic care, our therapeutics to the next level. And we are hopeful that we should be in a position to come back at the end of this year and open that facility and have that facility completed.
Just two more questions. What has the response been like from non-nationals with regards to the vaccination policy for the renewal of the work permits? And is there an update on the one and only resort? That's it. Thank you.
The response from non-nationals, I'm getting a thumbs up from P.S. Daniel. I don't know if you can put in your article that P.S. Daniel gave a thumbs up. So that suggests that the non-nationals have responded positively. I think people recognize that we have taken decisions, even difficult decisions, in the best interests of the island and to protect the island. And many non-nationals who are here are residents, and so they don't have that issue. We were really trying to focus on those who were coming in from outside. And there were some pretty high-level employees that were being employed to certain institutions here on the island. And we made it clear to them that they couldn't expect that persons would come in from outside and bring their families, etc., and not be vaccinated, because that would merely add to the number of people who are on island who are unvaccinated. So I know some try to make politics out of it and try to make a hullabaloo out of it, but I think these are reasonable decisions that are taken to protect our people. And the thumbs up from the PS, Wakely Daniel, spell his name correctly, Wakely Daniel, the thumbs up says that it has gone well. One and only, I don't have any update to give at this point. We continue in discussions with the developer, and I am hopeful because I have given our legal advisors some very clear instructions in terms of how to engage, and I'm hopeful, Mr. Cornelius, that by the next time I'm here, I would have an update for you as to where we are in relation to that particular development. I should say, though, in terms of other developments, I'm pleased that I'm advised by the developers of Tamarind Cove and the marina that is being done at that area where the sea bridge comes in. They are shortly to resume their construction activities there to bring that project to fruition. I'm also advised that a new development called Apsara is well on its way. That is may not be seen by most of the public because it's behind the Medical University of Americas, but it's well under construction now, and they're proceeding apace, and they think that they should be finished that particular project within the next several months. So we do have some projects that are, of course, underground and ongoing. I also see ongoing work at Belmont Gardens right here at the entrance to Pinnis. Of course, you know, the first phase of that project has already been opened, I think, very beautifully done with restaurants and duty-free shops and the like. I think the young people in particular have been hanging out there, and with the park across the street, it's a very nice environment. So we're hopeful that that project will ultimately be completed. That project has been going, as you know, for quite some time. So we're happy to see activity there and hope that that will be completed. And these are all projects that have benefited from the partnership with the Nevis Island Administration. We've provided incentives and tax and related concessions to all of them. And so I am quite pleased that those efforts on our part seem to be bearing some fruit. And so we look forward to those projects continuing and for the development of the island to continue apace.
Good morning, Mr. Premier.
Good morning.
Glenn Bart from SKN Newsline. My first two questions. Given the budget that was recently passed in the Nevis Island Assembly and the fact that we are in the process of recovering from the impact of COVID-19, how confident are you that you will be able to achieve the fiscal goals that you have set before you? And in that same context, can you indicate what would be your 3 priority projects or programs that you think has to be done in 2022 for the people of Nevis. Secondly, in the context of your, in the capacity as Minister of Foreign Affairs for St. Kitts and Nevis, can you comment on the 2021 African Caricom Summit that was held, and is there any progress being made in terms of relationship between Caricom and the African communities?
Thank you very much, Mr. Bart, and thank you for being here. The budget, I feel fairly confident that we can achieve our budgetary goals this year, and I'm fairly confident, Mr. Bart, because in the budgetary process we were very conservative. I know some of my colleagues weren't that happy with me because we took a scalpel and we cut wherever we could cut. We ensured that we said to colleagues that we had no room for anything other than what we had to do. And so we really ensured that we tried to deliver a budget that was practical. That's a word you hear a lot from me. That was practical, that showed that we were trying to live within our means. Much of what we do in Nevis depends on how the economy goes. I suppose that's true for many countries. And so if our economy can continue to pick up, as we're seeing signs, and if the numbers that we're seeing from tourism and other sectors of the economy continue to pick up, I think that we would not only achieve but exceed our budgetary allocations for this year. But it is very early yet. We are only in January, and so it is far too early to determine where we're going to go. I think I'll have a much better sense by the time we get to May or June this year in terms of saying how we are and where we are in terms of the economy this year. But I think that our budgetary allocations were very conservative, both in expenditure and in revenue. And so I think that we are in a process that we think is achievable. In terms of main areas this year, you asked for three. I think our road infrastructure that we've been building out, we have to complete that. We have the hospital project that Mr. Cornelius spoke about. It's a critical investment in healthcare. And I think our social safety nets. Let's face it, COVID has had a devastating impact on lives and livelihoods. Because some people, even though they haven't lost their life, they have lost their livelihood, and that has impacted the quality of life that they've had. And some people, of course, have suffered. Some people who were living already on the margins are now without a job. Their families are struggling. And so we need to ensure that we have an adequate safety net in place for those members of the community. In fact, it was just yesterday that I engaged, I'm sorry, forgive me, not yesterday, but on Tuesday, that I engaged with the High Commissioner Sherry Truss, our High Commissioner in Canada, and Senator Kucha there in Canada about the provision of mental health care to our people. I was quite surprised to learn that in 2020 we had an additional 36 persons added to our mental health register, and in 2021 we had an additional 36 again. So over the 2 years we had 72 persons presenting themselves, new individuals, seeking mental health care. And I believe that is a direct result of the pressures that COVID-19 brought on us in terms of people's lives and livelihoods. And so we have to ensure that we take care of our people. We have to ensure that we have the necessary safety nets. And so you will find that a lot of what we're going to do is going to be skewed towards ensuring that our people are protected as much as we can in the circumstances. So that has to be a priority for us this year as we try to build back better, as we're saying, as we try to work our way out of the COVID-19 pandemic. We can't leave our people behind. We have to bring them along with us. The 2021 Africa Caricom Summit really was a start, Mr. Bart. It really was an icebreaker, so to speak. It was the first time that it has happened. As you know, it was largely hosted by President Kenyatta of Kenya. And I think that as a consequence of that, we're now looking at how we can expand our footprint in Africa and how Africa can expand its footprint here. Caricom has been talking about opening a representative office in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, the seat of the African Union, so that we can be closer. We're talking about coalescing with Africa and the African Union so that our 14 nations in Caricom can coalesce with the 54 nations in Africa, and that gives you a very significant voting bloc in various international organizations, and that ultimately is what makes other more powerful nations take notice if you're voting together. You know what they say, if you are a minnow, and we all are minnows in the Caribbean, and we swim alone, you're likely to be gobbled up. But if you swim together, they may mistake you for a shark because you're swimming together and you're creating that illusion in the ocean that you're much bigger than your individual self. And so that is what we're seeking to do with Africa. And I believe that there is a tremendous reservoir of goodwill now. There's a momentum that I have discerned, particularly from President Kenyatta, who has now come to the region, I believe, twice, if memory serves, but also from other African leaders who are seeing the Caribbean, what we refer to as the sixth region of Africa, as part of the African diaspora. So I think that there's room here, and certainly from my perspective as Minister of Foreign Affairs of St. Kitts Nevis, we have made some tremendous strides, Mr. Bart, in terms of our engagement with Africa, our signing of visa waiver arrangements and diplomatic relations, which for us signal a first step to better relations. I think what is critically important now is for us to get airlift between the Caribbean and Africa. That, I think, is critically important. It must be a matter of regret for all of us that to get to Africa, we have to go through Europe. It must be a matter of regret. So I think that the idea of direct flights from the Caribbean, I don't really care where in the Caribbean, but from the Caribbean to Africa, I think that that is a potent symbol and significance, milestone, if you will, a marker that the Caribbean and Africa are truly coming together. And once you open up travel and air links, you open up other things, business opportunities and the like. I think that that is what we need to do. In fact, Mr. Bart, I will tell you, and I hope my information is accurate, but I think all of us think that Africa is so far away. When we think of Africa, we think about that far. But we were actually talking about the possibility of a direct charter flight from Nigeria to St. Kitts. The conversation got to a point and then stalled because COVID intervened. But the reason we're talking about it is because many Nigerian students, we've learned, are attending school in St. Kitts. And so you had a situation where families and friends would want to come to visit. So we're saying if we could have done a flight maybe once every fortnight. And I was pleasantly surprised to hear from the experts that the flight would be less than 10 hours. I was very surprised. I didn't think that you could get to Africa in 10 hours, but apparently you can. So if there are airline enthusiasts out there and my information is wrong, I will defend myself by saying that's what I was told. But I was very surprised because I have taken flights which are 16 hours, 18 hours, and to think that you can fly 10 hours and land in Africa, I think that that was quite interesting information. But I think that that has to be the next step, where we get a flight coming from somewhere in Africa, from one of the major states in Africa, Nigeria perhaps, or Rwanda, or Kenya, Ghana, one of those, coming to the Caribbean. And Africa does have airlines, as you know, several airlines in Africa. Even Ethiopia, for example, have their own airline. And, you know, what a joy it would be to be able to get on a flight in the Caribbean and land in the motherland. So we are hopeful that that will happen. But everything starts, every journey starts with a first step. And I think that this was quite significant, a significant first step with Caricom leaders and African leaders coming together for the very first time. And I'm happy that I was able to be a part of that.
Once again, if I could ask 2 questions on behalf of colleagues in St. Kitts who were unable to come over this morning. By the way, if you're putting in any little word for Africa, could you mention Morocco in those discussions? I would love to visit. Thanks. Okay, from Jamiela McPhail at Freedom FM, she wants to ask if an election, a local election, is likely this year in Nevis, and what do you think your party's chances are in terms of being returned to office? Jermaine Abel of SKN Vibes, he has two questions. Can you say how much Nevis has spent on COVID-19 for 2020 and 2021? And can you point to the areas where those monies were spent and whether or not the NIA received assistance from international agencies? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hewlett, for bringing those questions on behalf of your colleagues at Freedom FM and SKN Vibes. Starting with the SKN Vibes question, how much money did Nevis spend on COVID-19? I don't have a number for you today. What I can tell you is that we were forced to do a lot of reallocations of our budget, and a lot of money that was earmarked for other things was reallocated to health to ensure that we were able to do all that we needed to do. What was the money spent on? Many people here would not remember, perhaps, but we outfitted a building at Prospect, which we thought we might need. Thank God we didn't need it, or we don't. We have not needed it yet, and I hope that we don't ever need it. But we outfitted a building at Prospect, which was designed to be an isolation center. If it came to that, that came at quite some cost to us. We would have invested in new ambulances. We would have invested in PPE. We would have invested in some new ventilators at our hospital. We really would have invested in personnel. We have, of course, individuals here who work as case managers and all that we would have had to pay. So we would have had to invest significant sums, millions of dollars in testing. You know, people talk about testing. It's not cheap. And we often have to carry the cost. When we did contact tracing and all that, we had to carry the cost of testing. So I don't have today with me a quantified figure, but those would have been the broad areas in which we would have spent monies. Let's also remember that this government would have done something that no other government has yet done. We would have on 2 occasions handed out masks and supplies to the entire Nevisian public. When this pandemic started, we went house to house in Nevis handing out masks, reusable masks, and we have since, again, through our health centers and our community centers, made masks and hand sanitizer and the like available to our public. We've also, of course, made supplies available to the churches and areas, other organizations where large numbers of people gather. I'm quite proud of that. It sometimes goes unnoticed, but no other government was able to do that, and we did it. Perhaps because of our size, some may say it was easier for us to do it, but nevertheless, we would have done it, and I'm quite proud of that. So resources would have been spent in those areas, and I would get the figures. Mr. Abel, if you're listening, I'll get the precise figures for you. I'm sure that those could be quantified at the Ministry of Health. Is an election likely this year in Nevis? Short answer for Freedom FM is I don't know. It will depend on a number of factors, and so stay tuned. We will find out, I'm sure, this year, whether or not we'll have an election this year. So I think that is as much as I could say on that. What are our chances like? I think that our chances are excellent. I think that our people would have seen this government at work in an unprecedented crisis, a crisis that no government has ever had to confront in the history of this island. And I believe the fact that Nevis is still standing today is testament to the management that we were able to bring to bear to this island in a situation of crisis. In fact, COVID-19 represented an existential threat to our island and to our way of life. And I'm quite proud that at this point in time, Jehovah God was kind enough to us to have us here, and that 2 years on, we're still standing, and that our economy is showing signs of life. Our people are getting back to work, and some sense of normalcy is coming back to our island. And that is why I continue to encourage our people to go out and get vaccinated, protect themselves, and ensure that all of us are part of the solution for a better Nevis.
Glenn back from SK Newsline once more. Mr. Premier, could you comment on how active is your investment program for Nevis in terms of attracting new hotels to the island? I ask this because it has consequences also for other things, for example, such as better utilization of the Vance Armory International Airport. And I sometimes wonder if we are being passive in our role as promoting Nevis or St. Kitts for that matter, and we need to be more active. Can you comment on that? Secondly, could you also comment on the concept of, how should I say it? There was, for example, the construction of, or the project that was launched, Liamiga Housing Development by Univision, Dion Daniel, if I'm correct, on St. Kitts. And I was wondering if that was a project that you would have preferred to have had happening on Nevis. And if that is the case, can you comment on how do you perceive these kinds of projects being done by Univisions on St. Kitts and vice versa, St. Kitts on Nevis? And can you comment on that, please?
Mr. Bart, I confess a little surprised at your last question because we're still one country. And if any division decides that they want to invest on St. Kitts or do a project on St. Kitts, that's a matter for them. Similarly, if any Kittitian decides they want to do a project on Nevis and invest in Nevis, it's a matter for them. I wonder if you would ask the question of somebody from St. Paul's as to why they've invested in Sandy Point. I don't think you will. So implicit in your question is your own observation that somehow this isn't one country. It is one country. So whoever wishes to invest in St. Kitts, I say welcome. I drove by there recently. I saw a sign saying Yachtsman Express. Yachtsman is a very well-known and popular restaurant here, and they're now expanding into St. Kitts. Indian Summer. They have advised that they're now opening in Frigate Bay somewhere. They're expanding into St. Kitts. That is as it should be. I don't think there's anything remarkable about that or anything warranting a comment or observation. Our people should be free to invest wherever they feel that the investment will give them a return. This is our country. And any part of this country should be available to them to invest as they see fit. So Project Liamiga is in St. Kitts. Maybe Project Wally will come to Nevis, bought by a Kittitian investor. They're welcome. This is their country. And so I don't see anything remarkable about that at all. Promotion of the island, Mr. Bart, we continue to do what we could and what we can. But bear in mind that for 2 years, the state of travel and what it was like. And we couldn't even travel, frankly, to go overseas. In fact, as Minister of Foreign Affairs, I would ordinarily travel quite a bit. I traveled to New York in September of last year. It was the first time that I traveled in, I think, a year and a half. So our tourism promotion really ground to a halt, and we were restricted to promoting only online and using online platforms to try and promote the island. I think we did a good job in that period of time. Under the leadership of Ms. Yard, Jadine Yard, we would have launched a new website. We would have engaged in terms of social media content in a significant way. Hotels. And maybe my answer is not going to be entirely what some expect, but I am not enamored with the idea of this constant nattering about hotels. There seems, Mr. Bart, to be an element of our public that sees development only in the context of how many hotels you have or how many hotels you can attract. So oftentimes we as politicians get caught up in that hype because people say, oh, you're going to bring a big hotel. And I ask the question rhetorically, if we had another 10 hotels in St. Kitts Nevis, what difference would they have made during the COVID-19 pandemic? Absolutely none. What they would have done is ensure that more people were unemployed. We have to, I think, start to look at value added. We have to start to look at small business development. We have to start to look at firms that are technologically advanced and using technology. We have to start to look at things like agriculture and value added in the agricultural food chain as we talk about economic development. And this preoccupation that we've had for a very long time with hotels, and everybody wants hotels. I think before we start to talk about new hotels and go down that road, we should start to consider what is the occupancy level of the hotels we now have. Because if you have hotels now, and their occupancy, say in the off season, is down to 10%, that means 90% of the hotel empty. then where is the demand for additional hotels? And I don't say that to suggest that those who want more hotels are wrong. I simply say that in terms of how we prioritize and how we look to order our economy, that going down the road of greater dependence on tourism, I do not believe is the answer. And I think that COVID-19 would have shown us that that cannot be the answer. The Caribbean, Nevis, needs to move away from this over-dependence on one industry, which is tourism. Because as COVID-19 showed, the minute the planes stopped flying and the borders closed, the hotels closed, and our people suffered. And that is why certainly NIA is making a hard pivot to other things. Movie industry, agriculture, using technology in agriculture, more local construction, etc. Financial services. We're saying that we must have other strings to our bow. So not to knock those who want more hotels, I understand that. But when one looks at it from a logical point of view and say, yes, a hotel represents significant investment in the local economy, but you look at the hotels that have come and you start now to examine what is the level of business that those hotels are doing. Because the mainstays, believe it or not, here in St. Kitts and Nevis are still the Four Seasons Resort, to some extent the Marriott. Yet you have all these hotels that are being built and half-built and being developed and opening. What is the level of business that they're generating? Because they open, they say they're employing people, but then the people could only get 2 days a week because they don't have the business. And yet you hear people say, we bring more hotels. We want more. So you bring more hotels, then they open, and then people get 1 day or 2 days a week, and that's it, because they don't have the level of business. I believe that what we need to do is to focus more on filling the rooms that we have, ensuring that we incentivize existing hotels so that their standards are at a particular quality, that they can attract the type of stays and the type of visitor that will spend. And that ought to be our focus, certainly in the medium term. Now, is that saying that Nevis doesn't want hotels to come? If hotels can come and we can incentivize them and partner with them, absolutely, we encourage them to come. But this government is not going to go out there banging on doors and begging hotels to come and hotel developers to build hotels when our experience has been, particularly after COVID, that that sector is perhaps not the firmest of ground, the most solid of rocks on which to build our economy. So, I'm not knocking it, I'm simply saying that from my perspective, we need a rethink of how we fashion our local economy going forward. And COVID-19, I think, has taught us that lesson in a very clear way, and I think that we should heed that lesson. Investment, therefore, that we're looking at is multifaceted. We will, for example, be shortly rolling out an effort where we're looking at things like cryptocurrency. It's something which I confess, the first time I heard about it, I had no idea what they were talking about. But you have all these cryptocurrencies out there now. You have tokens, you have various brands that you will probably identify immediately, like Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash. And it's a revolution that's happening internationally. And we are hearing about it, but we are not engaging in it. I see El Salvador has gone down a particular road where they're now accepting Bitcoin as official legal tender for the country. And they're developing entire cities in El Salvador now that are funded and fueled by Bitcoin. And I'll be quite honest with you, I am seeing more and more places in St. Kitts and Nevis that are now accepting Bitcoin. So you go to a place and you have your Bitcoin, you have it on your phone, and you simply just scan it, barcode, and you pay. The world, whether we like it or not, that used to exist where we say cash is king, that world is fast dying. And we're moving to a cashless society. And it behooves us to get involved. My children are probably going to come along, and my grandchildren, if I live so long to see that, are going to come along, where cash is probably something that they hear about, but they don't see. Because everything now is contactless, and you touch and you pay and you go. So I believe that that is the next wave, and that these are the areas that we who are in the privileged positions at this point in our history as leaders should be looking to, should be talking about, should be encouraging startups and incentivizing and attracting investment in those areas rather than the old sterile way of telling people, come go build a hotel. So I feel that there are areas to go, and that is where my government is trying to position itself, greater technology, looking at things like crypto, looking at the financial services sector, seeing how we can leverage what is available to build better lives for our people. And that is where I think that our economic angle is going to be, and our effort to attract investment is largely going to be in those areas. You take the Apsara development, and I'll end here, that I mentioned. What is the concept behind that? It's not really a hotel. It's providing some level of accommodation, but more than that, it's providing a business space or business spaces for individuals who want to come from some countries and want to set up their business here. So let us say that you're in a place now like Hong Kong, good example. And Hong Kong, we know, very wealthy people, good education system, speak perfect English, people who are well-trained, highly sophisticated people. But China is now flexing its muscle in Hong Kong, and many in Hong Kong argue, as you know, there have been protests and the thing there, that there have been too much of a crackdown on them and the freedoms that they've enjoyed. And so to my mind, places like us in the Caribbean can now start to provide safe haven for companies that want to relocate. And with technology now, a company could be anywhere in the world. A lot of companies registered here in Nevis are doing business internationally. So why not attract them and say, listen, why not come in here, bring your 10, 15, 20, 100 employees? So we make it possible for them to come, to relocate, and to be here, and to be a part of our economic development. I think that's the kind of out-of-the-box thinking that we need to start to engage in. I think it is a perfect fit with our Citizenship by Investment program as we start to add value. Because even the CBI program can no longer be a man just get a passport and doesn't know where St. Kitts Nevis is and has never been there and has no plans to be there. It has now to be where you encourage people to come, to get the passport, yes, but to invest, to have a home, to visit, to send your friends, to bring your family, and who knows, to ultimately set up business here and to function here. So we are looking in Nevis at a holistic type of approach, an out-of-the-box type of approach, rather than the old sterile approach of just saying how much hotel rooms you have and how many hotels can you attract. And finally, in relation to the Vance Amry Airport, we think that our approach will also drive traffic to Vance Amry. It's just a different type of traffic. So we haven't abandoned the airport at all. In fact, you'll hear more about our plans as we go forward, but we are now talking about a different type of traffic that we try to drive there. Business traffic, people who are actually living on the island, people who are actually spending time on the island in a significant way, not just the tourist that's coming in for a week and looking the easiest way to get to and from Miami. So these are the thoughts that we have. I think that we are well on the way to developing a plan that, in my view, will take us forward past the next election and into the future. Are there any more questions for me?
Good morning, all. Good morning, Mr. Premier. Jarvis Brown from Vaughan Radio. Just two questions. As you mentioned earlier about being vaccinated, could you give us an update on the vaccination status for the island as it relates to the percentage rate for adults versus children? And one last question, sir. As Minister of Foreign Affairs, can you comment on the recent resignation of the Armenian president for having an SKN passport surrounding if, let's say, we have diplomatic relations with Armenia or we have visa waiver agreement with that country? And those are my two questions, sir.
Thank you very much. I think vaccination adults now, we are at somewhere around 68%, Mr. Jarvis. In Nevis, of course, it's high in St. Kitts. St. Kitts, I think, is around 86%. We still have a lot of work to do on Nevis, and that's why I've been encouraging Nevisians to go out and get vaccinated. We continue that drive, as I said earlier. I don't think I need to repeat about the raffle and the prizes that we now have available. I don't have much I can say about the Armenian president resigning. That story seems still a bit murky. Nothing has come to us formally in relation to that. And if it is that he saw value in the Sincus Nevis passport, then it means that even in Armenia, people are clamoring to get the Sincus Nevis citizenship. So that perhaps is a good thing. We do not at this point, based on my recollection, have any visa waiver arrangements or diplomatic relations with Armenia. And in fact, it's one of the countries that we have been pursuing for this type of arrangement. So I don't know whether or not this will help or hurt our efforts now. But I anticipate that what it will do is it will generate further interest globally in the Sincus Nevis Citizenship by Investment Program. And that's, I think, a good thing. It is, of course, for us to use that program, to benefit from that program. And as I said to Mr. Bart earlier, to try now to move to a system of value added. So it's not just the numbers, but really what we get out of it in terms of these types of individuals. It sounds as if when I look at the news reports that this Armenian president had never actually been here. And so that's what exactly the point I'm trying to make, that if you can get people who are not only getting a passport, but showing the interest in travel and engaging and owning a home and owning property and owning businesses here, then I think that makes all the difference in the world. Any other questions for me? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is 25 minutes to midday. I want to thank you all for coming, for being here, being a part of it, being a part of the first press conference for the new year. And indeed, Mr. Bart, coming over. Mr. Cornelius, should I say you came over as well? I'm not sure. Okay, Mr. Cornelius is here in Nevis, although you hear his voice on Win FM. And of course, for Ms. Hewlett, who's here with us, and those from Freedom and from SKN Vibes that would have called with their questions through Ms. Hewlett. I am truly grateful. Thank you, NTV, and of course, Mr. Tyson and his efforts are always welcomed, and Vaughan Radio for always being here to cover these events. Mr. Daniel, thank you very much for always being a part of this, and I look forward certainly to engaging with you at a time to be announced and a date to be announced next month. Thank you. God bless you.